Let's talk about some of the more advanced things you can do with Voicemeeter Banana. We'll cover three things in this video: gate, compression, and equalization, or EQ. An audio gate is a device or software process, in this case, that gently mutes an audio signal as long as the set volume threshold is not being met. In Voicemeeter Banana, you control both the threshold and the aggressiveness of this muting with this one simplified control right here. Right now, you can hear me talking because the volume threshold is being met by my voice. If I stop talking, you'll see that the signal goes to 0, and you no longer hear anything at all, not even my breathing, which it would otherwise pick up, albeit quietly. So this is obviously a very useful tool. Play around with this and see what works for you. A word of caution, however: if you choose a too aggressive setting, it can cut off the first bit of any sounds you make after it's muted itself, so just be careful. Okay, let's talk about compression. Audio compression, in a simplified sense, is the automatic control of an audio signal's gain to constantly achieve a certain volume level. If the sound is too quiet, it will increase the volume. If it's too loud, it will decrease the volume. In Voicemeeter Banana, you control the myriad of parameters this would normally involve through this one control. In my opinion, Voicemeeter does not have sufficient parameter control to achieve high-quality compression, and its simplified control does not function to my taste at all. So I don't use it. Your mileage may vary, so give it a shot. But as with any audio effects, be very careful not to go overboard. I'll do a quick demonstration of the compression nonetheless so you can see more or less what it sounds like. We'll go pretty aggressive with it. One thing you'll notice is that by default this also increases the volume, so I'm going to decrease the volume to compensate so it still is at the same level as it was before. Now you'll notice that the background sounds are much more apparent because every time I stop talking, it boosts the volume to compensate, and therefore you hear a lot more stuff that you don't want to hear. So you have to be careful. I generally just leave this setting off entirely because I really don't like the way Voicemeeter handles it by default. Finally, let's talk about equalization. In Voicemeeter Banana, EQ is best controlled on the outputs over here. You toggle the EQ on or off by left-clicking the button, and can open the EQ settings page by right-clicking it. Now this is what I'm talking about. This is a much better control system than the overly simplified gain and gate controls. But what does any of this do? It's quite simple, really. Equalization is the selective volume control of various frequencies within an audio signal. So, for example, you can boost the lower frequencies, the bass, or reduce the mids, and so forth. For our purposes, this lets us compensate for the inaccurate frequency responses of the inexpensive microphones we tend to use at our computers. In my case, I use an Antline mod mic. This is a very small and convenient mic, but like many small, cheap microphones, has a relatively weak bass response, so I've boosted the frequencies that make up the lower range of the human voice. Having heard myself recorded in professional environments many times, I can say that this sounds much more like my voice, my real voice, than without the EQ. This is what I sound like without the EQ. I don't like it. This is wrong. So I leave the EQ on. The method with which you control EQ in this page is by turning on or off the various sections of frequency control, controlling the gain of the frequency control with the middle rotary, and controlling the exact location of that frequency control with this rotary. This controls the relative steepness of the slope. So in terms of the graph we're looking at here, the left side is the lower frequencies, the lower pitches, and the right side is the higher pitches. I'm not going to go into all the detail about how to do EQ properly, but this is the essential idea. So if you want to boost the lower part of your voice, which you might very well if you have a cheap microphone, you'll do that over here. And if you want to boost, say, the higher frequency, if you feel like the treble sounds weird and it sounds like you're talking through a tube or something, you might boost both the bass and the treble, or any number of things. But this is not going to be a video on advanced EQ concepts, just basically how to do it in Voicemeeter. So you can apply the EQ to any output channel, but generally you'll only want to do it on your microphones. So that covers the three most important audio effects you can do with Voicemeeter Banana. In my next video, I'll show you how to set up your system such that while playing Arma with TeamSpeak like all the cool people do, every time you hold the push to talk on your radio, the game sounds around you, such as gunshots and explosions, will be transmitted with your voice to the listener on the other end, which is really cool when it comes to immersion. But importantly, other TeamSpeak sounds, like that person talking, won't be, so there's no echo.